Welcome to the Evidence Informed Teaching Podcast. Are you a teacher wanting to improve your classroom practice and deliver excellent teaching through access to research? Do you have a passion for teaching and are looking to connect with other like-minded colleagues through professional discussions? The Chartered College has partnered with Teacher Tap to support teachers to deliver excellent teaching through access to research, and we invite you to be part of this community. On this podcast, you will hear from fellow teachers, research experts, and you have the opportunity to be part of this professional discussion. You can find out more about the Chartered College of Teaching and Teacher Tap in the show notes. And if you find this episode helpful, why not share it with a teacher friend, take a screenshot and post it on your social media, or even better, leave us a 5-star written review.
My name is Vicki Medina, Fellow of the Chartered College of Teaching, and I have C-Teach. I work at Gordonston School in Murray in Scotland, where I'm the whole school literacy coordinator, teacher of English, and as of this year, I'm teaching psychology. I did my English degree at Warwick, and after that, I did my teacher training, my PGCE at Birmingham. So I started working in schools in 2010, so 13 years. After a couple of years of teaching, so NQT, and things like that, I did my master's in education, and a few years later I was sort of looking at what next in terms of developing my practice further, and that's when I came across the Chartered College of Teaching and the C-Teach course. It started actually, so when I was at university, we were sort of like a group of three. Dave, Dom, and myself. I ended up marrying Dave. So my husband is a chartered accountant. Our best friend, he was best man at our wedding, Dom, is a chartered engineer. And they were gently ribbing me about I was the only one that wasn't chartered. So that's what actually started the first sort of Google search. And I didn't even know if it was possible. Like, can you be a chartered teacher? It made sense to me that you could. You know, it's a graduate career. It requires a lot of skills. And that's how I first came across it, the initial Google. And then I started looking into it. And I thought, oh, actually, no, this is something that I really want to do. It's very comprehensive. I could see that from the marketing material. And I know from doing it how comprehensive it was. And I was very lucky at the time. I was working as English teacher at Kenilworth School. And my head teacher there was absolutely amazing. And he agreed to pay half the fees. There was he didn't put any retainers on me, no caveats or anything like that. I mean, he was like, do your project on something that helps the English department. But other than that, he was really, really supportive. So I applied. I obviously got on. I was part of the cohort where we actually finished, we graduated during lockdown, which was a little bit weird. So I never actually got my formal graduation ceremony, which was a real shame because I was looking forward to that, but it's one of those things. During my degree, I did do work experience in schools. So that was one of the things that I did, and I really loved that. I also did work experience and internships and stuff with the civil service and areas like that. Actually, really interestingly, because I had experience in schools, the internship I did was in the Department for Education. One of the things I was working on was the Rose report, which was about primary math. It was really, really interesting, that work as well. I just felt the teaching experience, like that, making a difference in the classroom every single day with actual young people and stuff, was where I wanted to be at that point in my career. That felt more important to me, and it's what motivated me as well. So I know how much of a difference education makes. So my family, my parents didn't go to university. I was the first person really to go through the education system successfully. I know success means different things to different people. From this point of view, I'm talking about grades and stuff like that, and progress on to a Russell Group university. I was the first person to go to university in my family, and the difference that education makes to your life is immense, and I've seen that firsthand, and experienced that, and I wanted to be directly involved in giving that to other children which is what motivated me to apply for PGCE. Placement years and stuff. When I was training, I worked with some young children with very, very sort of profound difficulties and stuff. And until you've done it, I don't think anyone the amazing feeling, like it's not all about getting the A stars. For some children it is, but for example, one child who I was working with, he was born to drug addicted parents. He'd been adopted by this amazing couple. They were incredible. And actually the success with him of getting him to write his name, and it was actually legible, and his dads were sort of like so tearful and grateful that we'd got him to that point. And to be involved in that it's just like the best feeling ever. I know I sound like, and I love that about teaching, and you get that year after year after year, taking students through as well. There's one young man, I first taught him in year 7, and then I ended up becoming his form tutor when he was in year 8, much to his chagrin at first, because I told him off and had to sort out a few behaviour things with him. That relationship, I worked on that, really, improved. He worked so hard. His GCSEs were really good. And then he went on to do A-level English, got a star in A-level English, went on to Warwick, actually, like I did, but to do law and business instead. And now he's working in the city. But he keeps in touch. I'm not, not like constantly. When former students just drop you an email, drop you a message as well, sort of say, okay, at the time you were having a go at me or making me write an essay about Shakespeare, but now I actually see the positive influence that you've had. I don't know what other job can give you that. And that's sort of my motivation to do it as well as I can and know as much as I can about teaching. I've spent the first 7 years of my career the intake area was a very deprived area. We were looking at 80% free school meals. It's everywhere I've taught has been rewarding, but when you are part of providing these pathways, essentially, out of poverty for young people, and education is providing them those opportunities to go on and succeed in life. To be able to do that is it's hard work at times. You have to put everything you've got into teaching, but then I also think you get more than that out of it. And then when you see the success stories of your students, I always think it's like on one of the coins, it says stand on the shoulders of giants. I always think like that, like you're helping them go further than you could. I have been very, very lucky in my career. I've worked at a number of very supportive schools, but overall I'm very lucky, and I've had really positive experiences of the schools that I work in. I personally don't think any classroom teacher is really compensated the right amount for what this job entails. You're not just a teacher, you are playing the work of a social worker, of a counsellor, you are taking the locus parentis as well. And it does take a lot from you. Like I said earlier, you get so much back, but you have to put so much in, from marking as well, and how that is done. Like, to do it properly, it takes a long time. I have been that teacher bringing home, like literally like filling. I used to have it's probably not the right, like those granny baskets with the wheels for shopping. I used to have marking in that and taking it home for the weekend. I think that's because that's an issue of PPA and your protected time. So in the state sector, you had 2 hours of PPA over a 2-week timetable. I've worked in schools where they've granted us extra as English teachers and other essay heavy subjects where you've had maybe 3-4 protected hours. That's not that's the school going further. That's not an individual school issue. There is no way you can plan and prepare lessons that are differentiated and tailored to your students and mark well in that amount of time. It's just it's not enough time at all given to teachers. So I think that is a challenge, because if you're in teaching, you want to do it well, but it's a job that kind of never finishes as well. There's always more you could do. You could always improve that display. You could always put a bit more feedback on the work, and you end up having to make choices, like for me personally, I will sacrifice the classroom display in order to work with a student one-to-one or to do a bit more marking. So I think things like that are the big challenges, and people will go and do something that is fewer hours for better pay, no matter how much they love teaching, particularly during a cost of living crisis as well. It's not just about recruitment. I mean, we've seen the figures about recruitment. Recruitment has been tough the last few years as well, nationally. But there's also the retention, and then particularly, so I'm a parent, and my son's 7 now, and I'm very lucky in that my husband went part-time, so he could do the childcare. So, for example, it's incredibly hard to find childcare that's open as early as a teacher needs it, because we have to be in 8:15 in order to then teach and look after other people's children. But childcare doesn't tend to open early enough. So I worked with, she was lovely. She was our head of Key Stage 4, and she was having to take her children to a childminder at 6 a.m. for the childminder to take the children to the nursery when it opened. The challenges as a parent are quite hard, particularly when both parents are working full time. I think I started the course predominantly like my head teacher, I don't know how to name drop, Hayden Abbott. He was incredible. There was no pressure on me. It was something I raised. I put together like a little presentation meeting with him about how I would see it sort of benefiting my practice and the department, as my role was as an English teacher then. And like I said, he paid half of it, and so I would say 85% of the motivation was purely to improve, my knowledge, my practice, and a desire to be as good as I absolutely possibly could be in the classroom, as well informed. There was some motivation in terms of what it would do for my career, obviously, as well. I wasn't 100% sure what it would do, but I knew it was only going to be beneficial. And the range of modules on it. So there are exams on it, and that sounds daunting, but they weren't that bad. They weren't that stressful. And actually some of them were kind of fun. So there was one I did where there's it's a mock-up. It's an actor, and they're in the role of NQT, and then you're observing them do a lesson. And it could be in any subject. That's what I really liked. So the scenario I got, they were a PE teacher and I'm an English teacher, but the skills, and I had to, for that exam, give my feedback on, say we were in a mentor meeting after that lesson and I'd observed it, what targets would I set and everything like that. I did think, this would probably move me on to maybe sort of being a mentor for NQTs, which I was doing a little bit of anyway. But at the same time, I knew, because we did on the course, I looked at PISA data and where the UK stands nationally, looking at my own school nationally and globally and things like that. So the amount of skills the C-Teach course provided me with, I have got the skills for sort of any direction I want to take my career, whether I want to take it pastoral route, academic route, leadership, anything like that. So I think it prepares you for every avenue in teaching. which I really loved. I mean, I have gone on to be whole school literacy afterwards as well. And I think, it plays a role, the C-Teach course, because there's that data element to it as well, and modelling and how you track progression, and also lots of theory, which I really enjoyed as well. So I think, so like I said, my motivation's predominantly to improve my own practice and to be able to upskill my colleagues as well, like to be not just my own classroom, but to be able to aid others. And I have noticed that since my C-Teach, I have a lot more colleagues coming to me asking for advice. I've moved school, and that's continued, just when people just pop in your classroom, like, oh, I just want to run this past you before I do it, or get your opinion on something. So I think it's that, and what I've found since, my confidence in the classroom is so much stronger as well. So both to try out something new, teaching is not a one size fits all. Just because it worked in one classroom doesn't mean it will work in your classroom. But I feel more confident to be able to sort of give it a go, and if it doesn't work, to reflect on that. How can I adapt it for my classroom? Or actually, is this something that in my setting isn't going to work, but at least I've tried it? I started in 2019. So I had a March, around Easter time, 2019, so pre-COVID, and we had the weekend events in London. So conferences, the speakers that came in were so interesting, really, really interesting. So I remember we had one about the use of data in the classroom. The range of topics was amazing, and to be in that room, just you could, wherever you sat, there was someone at, obviously everyone was doing the chartered status, but everyone was really interesting to talk to, really dedicated to education. And it was great to be in a room, so a whole day conference and group work and stuff, with people who had made the same choice as me, actually, to actively work to improve their practice and to be the best teachers that they could. And people were coming from all over the country, so many different settings. We were all in together: primary, secondary, further education, private, state. The opportunity to meet with that many people and just to share ideas, what they're doing in their setting. The independent study, the website was really accessible, really easy to use, and very interesting. And then the assignments, I found all of them, there was choice in all of them, which I really appreciated. So there was one where where it was a topic around data, but you could choose. So I chose to look at PISA data, but I didn't have to look at PISA data for my assignment. And then the subject knowledge. So I'm an English specialist. The subject knowledge choices, they were really, really, there was it was an exam, but there were so many that I wanted to do. So you chose by key stage, and then within that, sort of different areas. So English language, English literature. I looked at GCSE because at the time that's what I was focusing on, but I could have chosen key stage 5 topic areas and stuff. And the assessments were really, really, you could tell they were done by someone who had really, by someone who had really thought about it, who understood teaching, understood the requirements of the course and stuff. I wouldn't say I didn't have to revise for my subject knowledge test, because it is what you're doing day in, day out. And it was actually really nice to work to sort of put it all together. And there's that sort of boost as well. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And actually what I do day to day in my job is being acknowledged almost, and there, we do a lot as teachers, and it requires a lot of knowledge as well. So enjoyed the test. Obviously a test, but I did actually enjoy them because they were written in a way, and like the choices were good, the time slots worked around teaching. So I did enjoy doing all of those because they were very interesting and made me think. But I think my favorite part was the sort of the conferences and where we came together with other people doing the course. Due to COVID, the last few were online, which, just is the way it had to be. And they were still really interesting. And I think it helped that I already knew people from the face-to-face sessions, and the connections I've made, like I stay in touch with not like everybody on my CTeach course, but I have made some really good like work connections, but they're sort of more than that because we were CTeach together. And then my other favorite bit, so towards when I was still on the course, when I was sort of getting towards the end of it, there was an opportunity to, like, some of us were invited to DV, the Department for Education, to talk with the minister and stuff, and I put my name forward. I went to that as well, and the advisory opportunities and to be able to talk to ministers going on, what it is like in the classroom and what we need as teachers. I loved that. So in terms of career impact, I would say first and foremost, my confidence in the classroom, and then with that comes your classroom presence, I think is a lot stronger, and my students therefore benefit from that, as well as me. It's nice to feel like, yes, I know what I'm doing. Even if it goes wrong, if I've tried something and it doesn't work, that's not this awful thing that you'll never come back from. It's completely fixable and you'll continue absolutely fine. I'm middle leadership afterwards, so whole school literacy. And I think that is, in part, whenever I've interviewed for any promotions and stuff after completing CTeach, my answers always come back to CTeach. There's always something from the course that I can talk about in interview, and there's always transferable skills and knowledge from CTeach for roles that I'm not saying I do sort of carefully pick the roles that I go for so they align with my ambitions for myself in terms of my career. And I think CTeach is good in that sense as well, because I met so many different people doing so many different jobs on the conferences. It gave me a much clearer idea of where I want to go, because I kind of, at the beginning of my career, it's not a trap per se because it's all useful experience, but sort of applying for any promotion that came up just to see, whereas I feel a lot more focused in the route that I want to go now. I've done more mentoring, working with early career teachers, so that has been really useful. I think it stopped me sort of worrying about where my career is going, if that makes sense. So just to qualify that, because CTeach is really good because it manages to be broad and focused at the same time, and specialists. So it's given me the confidence that actually whatever I decide to do with my career in education and wherever I decide to focus it, I will be able to do it, and I will have the knowledge and the skills. I feel like I can take my time more with picking out the exact career route that I want, rather than sort of panicking and trying to find a way through. And I think that's probably one of the best things it's done for my career, actually. I do think it's worth the cost overall in terms of the value you add to the school and to yourself, and improved confidence in my teaching abilities, my a much stronger classroom presence, data skills, knowledge skills, but also the connections I made, the friends I made on the CTeach course, the professional relationships I fostered. So I would definitely recommend the Chartered pathway. It's great for your career. It's just really, really interesting.